Hi, it's Steph, and today we're going to talk all things iris, what I currently have in my garden, and some new ones that I just got from Schreiner's Iris. Iris. I've really come to love them over the last few years, and they are sort of like a daylily where some people love them and some people really don't like them at all. And there's different reasons for that. They are considered an old-fashioned bloom, but I really do believe that they are such a beautiful statement piece in the garden, specifically your spring garden, that it's worthwhile to have even just one or two varieties. They really do sort of fill that gap between your daffodils and your blooming bulbs and tulips until when you're awaiting your roses and other flowers to bloom. So they're just a really beautiful in-between spring flower. Now, when it comes to iris, there are a few varieties, quite a few actually. And I have a couple in my garden. So I have some Siberian iris. They were the first ones that I ever had. They were a division from my neighbor. She provided me with a clump of these really pretty, dainty purple iris with a little bit of yellow in them. A couple of years later, I went to a garden fair and I bought another variety that I believe is a type of Siberian iris. They are white with a really pretty yellow center. Just really like elegant looking flower, which I really love. And I also recently, as of last year, purchased a Japanese iris, also known as Iris Ensata. And this one is a later blooming variety, and the blooms on them are enormous. They're a huge bloom, and what an impact they bring. In fact, I have those irises blooming in my July garden tour. So where most of my iris were done blooming in May and in the beginning of June, over in July, the beginning of July, I still had this variety, this Japanese Iris Ensata, blooming. And the variety that I have is tiramisu, and it was just gorgeous. I had bought it in a bag at Costco of the bulbs, and this was the first year that I saw it bloom, so it was quite a surprise. I was really excited to see them. But what I have the most in my garden, and what I've accumulated a collection of, are bearded iris. What prompted me to share this video with you is I just recently got my Schreiner's Iris Garden order in the mail. Now, I've ordered from a couple of places in the recent years, and my favorite is Schreiner's. I love the way that they package their rhizomes. I love the way that they give you like a good healthy rhizome. So I've been really happy with them. So I'm going to share with you my order and what I received this year. How do you buy iris? Well, you can buy them, you can get them a few ways. You can get them from people who share them with you from their gardens. Gardeners are always needing to divide iris because if they're happy, they will grow abundantly. And so in order to keep them happy, every few years you do need to divide your clump. So you'll be able to get them from other gardeners who will be happy to share some with you. You can also buy them as potted plants. So a lot of times at the box stores or at nurseries, you'll see them sold as a potted plant. You can also buy them as rhizomes, which is what I have in this box here. And rhizomes is essentially just a clump of the root. And so those are the ways that you can buy them. Now, when it comes to light conditions, iris need to have sufficient light in order to bloom the best. So you want to site them in a place that has a minimum of 6 hours of sunlight a day, and you'll get the most blooms in full day sun. So let's take a look at my Schreiner's Iris Garden order. I bought these myself and paid for them with my own money. So I'm just going to share with you what I got and the varieties and how they package them. So this is what they show up like. They come in this box or in a shipment box. Obviously, depending on the quantity of the order will determine how big your box is, but they do give you your packing list, a how to grow iris care guide, and it tells you how many came in your box. So you'll want to go ahead and confirm that the order that you placed is consistent with what they provided you in the packaging. So I like that they give you this straw in here. It keeps the plants nice and, comfortable during shipment. And what I enjoyed the most from my Schreiner's order compared to the other company that I had ordered from before was that they give you these beautiful tags that have a picture of the iris on them. And I love this because when you plant your iris, you can kind of keep this tag, you know, tucked under your mulch so that you can refer to it and see which variety is planted there until you get around to making tags or labels for your garden. So the first one that I picked out is actually my bonus iris, or the gift that they gave me for my order. So on Schreiner's website, if you order a certain quantity, I believe it was 3, you will get a bonus gift for free. So I ordered 3 irises and they gave me this one as my bonus or free gift with purchase. So this one is called Discovered Treasure, and it is a tall bearded iris coming in at 38 inches. And that's what that looks like, and I'll pop a picture up on the screen. And it's very consistent with the colors of irises that I have in my garden, which are these peaches and pinks and purples. So I was really happy to get this one as my gift with purchase. The other variety that I chose was champagne and strawberries. And so I went with a brown theme for this year. And while the irises aren't a true brown, they have those hints of cream and brown tones, bronze. So I thought that would be really pretty to have a grouping in this color scheme. So this one is called Champagne and Strawberries, and it is another tall bearded iris, and it comes in at about 38 inches tall. The other iris that I chose was Coffee Trader. So Coffee Trader is also tall bearded, 38 inches. And this one has like a creamy color with that hue of like tan to it. And I'll show you, again, I'll pop up a close-up of the pictures. And this one here is called Downtown Brown. And so this one here is taller than the other 3 at 40 inches tall. And so what they provide you is this fan. So the leaves on the iris, these here are called fans. And so they look really healthy. Only the edges where they were cut are a little bit dry, but that happens naturally. And when you inspect your rhizome and roots, they are nice and healthy. The rhizome is nice and firm. There are no soft spots. That is what you're looking for a nice, healthy rhizome. You want to make sure your roots look really good, nothing soft and mushy, and these look excellent. So that's that one. The same here. Nice, firm rhizome. Nice, healthy looking roots. Look at the size of that one. Really great size rhizome. Yep, so these are all in really good condition. Now, when they ship your irises is dependent on your zone or what gardening region you are located in. Typically, these types of iris should be planted, your bearded iris are typically planted between late summer or mid to late summer and early fall. So this is actually the perfect time for me to get them here in my zone 6B and get them planted. So next I'm going to show you how to find your planting spot or how to site these and how to get them planted. Now that I found the spot that I want to plant my iris that I know is going to get over 6 hours of sun a day or full sun, I am going to go ahead and plant it. You want to plant your rhizome so that your roots are down and your rhizome is up at above the soil level. These iris will thrive with proper air circulation and sunshine hitting the rhizome. So that's how you want to plant it. So I've decided to plant it here, so I'm going to go ahead and dig up my soil and get it in. So if I look at the how-to booklet, this diagram kind of shows you what you want to do here when you're planting. You want to make sure that your dirt is mounded underneath the roots, that the roots are underneath, and that the rhizome is just at the soil level exposed. You don't want to press it into the soil where you're now covering the bottom of the fan. So this is the correct way. So I went ahead and I added a little bit of fresh compost to my hole. And I'm just gonna kind of fix my roots so that they're going to be under the soil, nice and spread out. I'm facing my fan upward, and I'm going to make sure that my rhizome stays exposed. So now that I have my roots in the proper place, I'm going to go ahead and plant it. And this area was a little low, so I'm adding some compost. The back of the tag on these from Schreiner's also tells you, how to plant them. You want to make sure that you plant them so that the top of the root or the rhizome is exposed and that the roots are nice and spread underneath the soil. So that's essentially what you want. You can see the top of the rhizome right here, and the roots are under the soil. And then once you're done planting it, you can water them in. Generally, new iris just need watering when you plant them, and for the most part, the weather will take care of them. You don't want to let them sit in puddles of water because it could risk rotting your rhizome. And this iris is planted. So the key is just to keep this exposed. If you bury your iris too deep, you're going to risk rotting your rhizome and not getting any blooms. Now, when it comes to fertilizing your iris, the recommendation is about 4 to 6 weeks before they bloom. So sometime in early spring or late winter, you could apply some kind of fertilizer. The type of fertilizer that's recommended is either some type of bone meal, so I have 2 types of bone meal here, or a all-purpose bulb fertilizer. You just don't want to use something with too much nitrogen because you'll get too much foliage and the foliage will be floppy. So either a bulb fertilizer or bone meal is best. Here I have a beautiful variety called Cantina, and this is a reblooming bearded iris. So reblooming varieties are great because you get a second set of blooms from them a few weeks after the first set of blooms. So here, this one is just about done of its second flush, and I have this stalk here. And so once your iris is done blooming, what you would do is go right down the stem and you would cut it off. And you want to leave your foliage intact so that it can photosynthesize and get all of the nutrients that it needs from the sun so that it'll be ready to bloom for you next year. Another part of aftercare is cleaning up any foliage that looks a little bit tattered or browned. Someone asked me, what do I do with my iris after they're done blooming? Because they noticed that I still had the foliage in my garden. And really all I do is anything that has a little bit of browning, I would just go down the foliage and I would just cut it and remove any kind of brown or dry spots or any foliage that looks like this to just clean up your clump and keep them looking healthy. So I just cleaned up this clump of iris and it looks much nicer now. And this has been planted here for about 3 to 4 years now. And you can see that the tops of the rhizomes are nice and exposed. And I went through and I cleaned up all this dry foliage or any leaf that looked like it had some browning on it. You just want to kind of clean up and keep your plant nice and healthy. If you keep too much stuff down there, it can harbor diseases and pests, and you don't want that. Well, I got 1 down and 3 to go. So as soon as I find a spot for those, I'm going to get them planted. I ordered these back in the spring, so this is the time of year that all of those iris that you would have ordered in the spring start to show up at home and time to get them in the ground. You want to get them planted so that they have plenty of time to establish some roots before they go dormant for the winter. So do you like iris? Do you have any planted in your garden? Comment below. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please consider subscribing and liking, and I'll catch you in the next one.